We have with us Ravi, who's chairman of Mytrah Energy. Thank you for joining us. So first of all, Mytrah is a company that some people will know very well. What is happening at Mytrah at the moment? Where is the company going?
So Mytrah is reaching about 1 gigawatt of wind in India now, and we're building about 500 megawatts of solar now. It's very interesting that it took us 5 years to get to the first 500 megawatts, and it took us 1 year to get to the next 500 megawatts. And it looks like we will have the ability going forward to build somewhere between 500 megawatts and 1 gigawatt of wind and solar every year. We chose a very unique business model where we were not just a developer or an owner of these assets, but we chose to be in all parts of the value chain. So right from picking which sites, which is getting data on wind sites. We have over 200 wind masts across India with access to over 10 gigawatts of potential sites. We do the project development, which includes getting permissions, trying to determine where the best places to connect to the grid are. We do an internal EPC. We also have built capabilities for asset management and for operations and maintenance. So that gives us the ability to find a margin across the value chain, and that delivers, we believe, a much better return on our equity as opposed to simply being an owner of assets and outsourcing the actual building to somebody else.
Now there's some very specific questions that people may have in terms of curtailment and payment delays. What's the situation there?
So this is an issue that permeates many emerging markets for energy. We chose to address it in a slightly different way. We felt that there will always be some issue of either curtailment or a payment delay in different markets over different periods of time. And especially if you're signing PPAs for over 25 years, you don't know which state or which region is going to have these issues 5 years or 10 years from now. So our way of addressing this was primarily to diversify. So instead of building our first 500 megawatts in 1 or 2 locations that seem to have the best discom or seem to have the best power offtake capabilities, we said let's go and build it across the country. So we ended up building our first 500 megawatts in 10 different projects in 8 different states across over 3,000 kilometers of territory. So it gave us diversification in 2 ways. One is, of course, the wind portfolio diversification. So although the monsoon is treated as normal or below normal in a year, but there's huge regional variation. So we're able to capture different parts of the wind cycle in a given year. But also we have so many different counterparties now. So we are dealing with 8 or 9 discoms. We're dealing with multiple counterparties, private counterparties where we sell power directly to. So this allows us to mitigate this, and we rarely have more than about 10 or 20% of our payments that go beyond the due date by over 20 days or 30 days on an average. So that gives us comfort to factor this into our working capital calculation rather than saying it's a go, no go.
Yeah, so diversification then.
Yes.
So in terms of financing, what is the feeling now? What is the sentiment? What is the market like for financing projects in different markets?
Well, to talk about financing projects in India, I think we're clearly sort of separating into 2 boxes now. So the first set are projects and developers who either have a lot of experience in building these projects or who have other strengths that allow them to get finance. And there's a lot of developers who are trying to build between 5 megawatts and 20 megawatts and 30 megawatts. Some of them have challenges and some of them are able to find unique ways to finance. But overall, I would say within the Indian senior lending book, renewables account for the largest portion of the marginal lending that's happening. So I think between last year and this year, renewables account for the largest share of the lending in India. So that goes to show that there's a true change, not just at the policy and regulatory level, but on the financing level too.
Okay. Another concern is the health of distribution companies and of course the integration of renewables. These are 2 big barriers. What is Mytrah doing in this field?
So the health of distribution companies is something that has always been discussed in India. And I'm always surprised at the outlook on this. There are two ways to look at it. One is the distribution companies have no explicit guarantee from their respective state governments who own these utilities. So they're always treated as independent entities when investors look at it. But in reality, these distribution companies are owned by the state, and they don't get the same rating as the state on a credit basis. But like in Germany, for example, some of the distribution companies are not in very good health, but they have the backing of the German government explicitly, so their paper is AAA. So that's one way to look at it. And the second is that these distribution companies have never defaulted on a payment. So there have been delays, but never a default. And also, I think that people need to factor these risks in when they determine what the price at which they're willing to supply, whether it's a feed-in tariff or if it's a reverse auction. I mean, you need to adjust your pricing with these risks in there. So I think it doesn't make sense to bid very low and say, well, I'm having this issue with the distribution company.
Okay. Now, opportunities in hybrid solar and wind. Where do you see the opportunities for a company like your own?
We think that the hybrid solar and wind is going to be the future of this business in India. We are very excited about it, and I think that in the next 2 years, most of our projects are going to be hybrid. We have the capability to work on both sides now, and we are in all those areas and regions of India that allow for both wind and solar. So solar could be almost anywhere, but wind, we've created a project pipeline across a very large part of India, and adding a 30% PLF on wind and about 20% PLF on solar creates projects between the 40 to 55% PLF renewable projects.
Right.
And if you add a few hours of battery onto that, we have something that actually competes very effectively even with hydro, if I forget about coal now. So we think the future is going to be hybrid in India.
Excellent. Ravi, Kalias, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.